Hey guys, just Forsaken Reality here with the 28th episode of the Remnant tutorial series. And in this episode we're going to be working on replicated dodging so that at the end of this episode we'll have directional dodging similar to Remnant, and all the animations will be free in this project. But the way they're set up, I'll have them in a download link because I made a lot of little minor adjustments to them and I just wouldn't be able to really show them properly without forgetting something on video. Basically, it's just a lot of frames removed to fix the original Mixamo animation, which was the forward roll, and I think the dodge right, which was which also used the same roll animation, but you could tweak it to the right, and then I just had to make it so this plays backwards and this one plays backwards for the backwards and left rolls, basically. So without further ado, we'll get into setting up the system. First, you want to download those animations. You pause the video here and get back into it when you finish. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring this over here for my test copy, and now we have our copy right here. And you should have your animations downloaded now. So I'm just going to grab my animations here. They're not going to be in through like so many folders like that. I'll have just the folder filled with animations. And I'm just going to go in here, my animations, new folder. Make one dodge animations. That's what I'm using when we're in multiple different stances. So I wasn't really sure to put them in pistol. So I figured I'd just make their own little folder. Just going to drag those in, select my master skeleton, import all. And now I have all my animations in here. Make sure to enable root motion on each of these animations. And for the forwards, I'm going to set them to 1.5. Wasn't sure if that settings would transfer over as well. And right is going to be enable root motion 1.5. Speed. Back is going to be negative 1.5. And right or left, it's going to be negative 1.5. And enable root motion. So you make sure it's going to double check all those. Make sure I enabled root motion on them all. Okay. Now once you do that, you'll notice that I'm just going to create the backwards animation here. When I create my animation montage, now when my animation is playing properly, my rate scale is forward, but it's actually playing it backwards for my montage specifically. So that's what we want. I'm just going to create a montages folder. And I'm going to create a montage for all of these, because I'm going to need them. And I'm going to put them all in their own folders so there's not too many. Double check on the fix the redirectors. Now we have all of our dodge animations. The next thing we're going to want to do is open up our character blueprint. And in here, input graph, I want to go to, I'm just going to start right here in our input graph. First of all, we're going to want to create our dodge inputs. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to create an action mapping. But this action mapping is going to be used to collect the inputs and also save inputs for WAS and D, because they only actually continue through if you're pressing your spacebar. So I'm just going to name this dodge, and we'll do spacebar since it's our main button. And add 4 more. W, I'm going to do it WSAD. So it's up, down, left, right. Because S is down. A is normally left. And D is normally right. Let's make it look a little neater in the code. So there won't be any weird overlapping lines or things. Will make a little more sense. Where's the R? Where's the D? There it is. So now we have our inputs set up. We can go back into our character here. And we can create an input. Create our check for our input, which is dodge, not climb. And we're also going to create a custom event. Which will be dodge. That dodge will do for now. Maybe put an underscore in there. And you want to create a few inputs, and one's going to be for the spacebar, and you're going to search for the key, and that's going to get your key pressed. And then you want to add another input, and that's going to be your last key pressed, which is also going to be a key, obviously. I'll type it there. Now we're going to check if our spacebar was pressed when we press the dodge. I'm just going to get our dodge event, and if we press the input dodge, it's going to send the key here to the spacebar and check if it's there, and it's going to send the key there. So basically it's going to check if the key pressed is equal to spacebar. The reason we have 2 here instead of 1 because it just makes it a little more organized when we're playing with variables later on down here. So you know exactly what the key pressed is doing, and not just if it's doing this for the spacebar or for the last key pressed. So you want to check if spacebar is pressed. Make sure I remove that bubble. And if it is not pressed, we're going to drag out of here and promote it to a variable. And we're just going to remove these spaces. And I'm going to put it into a category called dodge. And drag these into the weapon category. And another neat thing you can do with these, say if you have a category like aiming that has to do with your weapons, you can put in weapons and in the symbol over your backslash when holding shift, and you'll get this bar, and usually it's right beside your enter key, and then you just click enter, and it puts the aiming category inside of your weapon, so that now when we click our character and we compile, we open up our weapons and we have the drop down for our aiming as well as its own little bar, so it makes it a little organized. I'm going to do the same thing with our dodging here, but it's going to be in our movement category. So that's like this. So now we'll get back to here. We're going to check if our last key pressed. And basically if our space bar is not pressed, we're going to save that key. That's what this is doing right here. And the reason we're doing this is because if we press the forward key and then we press spacebar, we'll look for the last key pressed, and then it will play our direction depending on that button that's pressed. So now we can tell if our last key is pressed basically right now. And from here, we're gonna need a function. Check if our key is still pressed when it starts passing through the true part of the statement. When you press spacebar, it's gonna check if our key is still pressed. So if you, for example, press W and then let it go for any period of time, that key is still saved there until you press spacebar, for example. And it will, and once you press spacebar, we'll check to see if that key is saved. If not, then we will remove that last key. And our branch here is going to be get player controller. And this is how you check if it is input key down. Now we're going to check if our input is our last key pressed. So basically what I just said, if this is still pressed, then it will do nothing, and if it's not still pressed, it will remove the key. So it's blank and won't allow it to jump in any direction. So that's that function quickly created. We can go back to our event graph, or our input graph, sorry. And that will run through this, and it will remove the key if it's not still pressed, so it won't allow us to continue through. And now the next one, we need to get into creating our enums for our new enumerations. So we'll come into our data table and enums. And we're going to create 2 new enums. Blueprints, enumeration, e_dodge keys. So this will store all the keys for dodging. Or the names for them. e_dodge state. And this will determine if we're dodging forward, backwards, left, or right. So for dodge key, we want 4 of these. Created them off screen, don't know why. We want 4 of these. And W, forward, backwards is S, left is A, D is right, and our states, which we'll create 4 for now. Forward, backward, left, right, and now you'll see that these are all starting to line up with each other and all across all of our things. So now that we have these created, we are going to go back into our character, create a new function, set dodge key pressed, and from here we're going to get our last key pressed, get key display name, which will get like the letter that's pressed, letter of the key. And we want to switch on string. We need to click away from that switch on string. So we'll look for a string which will be what the display name is. Use it, which is the text value basically. So it's going to get that. And if we're going to create 4 pins, and the way we're going to set these up is instead of getting it from an enum, we're going to go W A S D. So if basically if the selection, the last key pressed is one of these letters, then we will want to first off set the letters, set the key pressed in enum. So we're going to want to create a variable. And our variable is going to be key pressed. I don't have keys, but key pressed. And we're going to get our enum for Dodge keys. Yeah, I'm just going to stick this in the Dodge category. I'm going to create that and set it. I'm going to control V it 4 times for each Dodge input. W, S, A for left, and D for right. So now if W is your input, it's going to set this to W, S, and I got this backwards. If you did this, you need to change it because you can't have duplicates. Naming WSAD, so WSAD, and then we're going to want to return the key pressed. So now this is being set in this function. I'm going to copy this and paste it 3 more times. Just going to line these up like that. And there we go. Oops, I don't know what happened there. Comment set key pressed enum. So now this is filling out our data in our enum when we jump or when we dodge. If our key is still pressed, we will set the dodge keys. And this will get our key pressed, depending on our last key pressed. So now we have that created. We are going to want to create one more function. We're going to set our dodge state. And in here, we're going to simply create an input for key pressed. And that's going to be our dodge keys enum. So now we go back to our input graph and we just pull out this blank function. We will be able to plug this in here so it sends the key press to the dodge state. We're going to be setting our dodge. So we want to drag it up here and get another switch. So whatever's input here, it will give it a W, for example. We're just going to want to create a new variable called dodge state. We're going to get our state. Paste this 4 times. WSAD. So if it's W is pressed, it's forward, backwards, left, and right. So now we're getting our state. Our state is set depending on what key is pressed. I'm just gonna print string so I can show you exactly that. So basically, it should give us the proper states depending on what keys we have pressed. So we click play. Forward if we're holding forward, and you click space, left, back, right, forward, back, right, left. So that seems to be working. And from here, we can drag out of here. Get our server play montage. And we want to get our mesh for our skeletal mesh component. And the montage will, for this one, will be our forward montage we created earlier. Play rate is 1. You can just copy this. So now we have our forward, our backward, our left, and our right. So now if all is well, we should be getting our montages playing forward, but you see the camera is doing some funky stuff, and so are the animations. So we have some slight adjustments still to make, obviously. So, watch montages. Set the state of dodge ending on dodge key pressed. Remove these bubbles. And the first issue with our camera, we can simply fix that by just taking our camera and putting it off of our skeleton like this, so that it's not in connected to it, it's just in line with it. So basically the camera will still be in its proper positioning and everything. We just won't have it connected. So now we have this. And now there's the ending of the animations, which are some weird timing and stuff there. So to fix those, we're going to go into our animations, dodge animations. And in here, it's a few little changes that I'm going to make. I'm just going to look at mine quickly. I think that it was in the montages that I made the adjustments. Ah, yeah, it was. So in the montages, for our blend out time, change that to 0.3. Just gonna double check to make sure I made them all the same. So for the forward and the backwards, I set to 0.3. Just double checking these animations here. So yeah, I found that to the right and left, adding the blend out time to 0.3 for right and left on the montages actually does seem to help in this one. I don't know what exactly I did in mine, I guess, but the animations turned out slightly different. Mixamo animations themselves are never the best. The root motion in them is just off, which is why you have to do so much editing to the animations to make them look decent. So you might want, if you actually want to do some official project, you might want to get those animations redone. There's animations I know that are paid animations on the marketplace, but I wanted something free to use for this tutorial. Now that we have those done though, we're going to want to fix another bug, because if you notice that if you spam your space bar, you can dive like a seal or something and get stuck. So we want to spam check. So the way we're going to do that is through our animations notifies. So we want to get in and come into one of our montages. Come into our, and create a new notify. And our notify is going to be stop animation. This is going to be used multiple times throughout the project. It's just, this is the first time we're going to be using it. Basically, it's going to be used for overrideable animations. So basically, if this is running, no other animations will be able to play during this, and it will have to wait for this to stop the animation in order for other animations to start playing. So, for example, you can't dodge and then mid dodge change to the reload animation or something like that. This check will allow you to stop things like that from happening. So you want to create your B. It's going to be, yeah, animation playing. And it's going to be a Boolean. Put this into the movement for now, since it's not really specific to the dodge. And right here, if spacebar is pressed, and we will set the animation playing. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Set the dodge state. Set the dodge key. And I'm going to check if our dodge key is still pressed. Agent is currently playing. And it's going to be disabled in the animation notify. That's why I don't like all of these bubbles, because they just get messy looking after a while. So now we have this check set up here. We're setting our animation is playing. And but we also want to create a branch. This will prevent us from playing it multiple times. So if we press space bar, oops. And our animation is playing. We'll do nothing. If it's not playing, we'll set that our animation is playing. Move that over like so. Bring this a little closer. And this is going to be our check if animation is playing. This is what I mean. We're going to be using this there's going to be other instances, like maybe there'll be something happening that you can't do a dodge, and it will turn this animation on. Animation is playing on, so that when you try to dodge while you're doing it, there's nothing happening when the animation's playing until it's disabled in the animation notify. So now we should be able to only do one dodge and nothing else will ever happen again, because we're setting it. We have our animation notify to stop the animation, but we're not actually stopping the animation. You know what I mean? So that's pretty simple. You want to go into your character, animations, master animation blueprint. And in our notify graph, we just want to simply call our stop animation notify. And we're going to get our character reference. We can control C or just drag it over from there. And we are going to get our set animation playing. And we are going to disable that. Also, one more thing. This variable is going to be a replicated variable. So now just an example right there of what would when you'd use this basically. So if you're shooting, you'd also use this. If you don't want to, if your animation is playing, you don't want to be able to shoot. So basically you come up to your input action fire and you would check if animation is playing. So, and if it isn't playing, then you'll be able to fire, and if it is playing, you won't be able to fire. And we have our forward roll, so we want to browse to these. And we're going to want to set that notify up in all of the, so if you want to go to your notify, skeleton notify, stop animation, and just stick that near the end. The reason I use the word stop animation because we're also going to put in a function for stopping the montage later on. Stop animation. And so that should be all that. It's going to save all. And now you should have directional dodging, and you shouldn't be able to spam the buttons until it says, basically. Depending on how far away you put that, this, save you want it to start earlier when you dodge left. So now when I dodge left, it's almost like it's just continuously looping, but if I move this over to closer to the end of the animations, we'll wait till it gets a little farther in before I can do it again. See, that's a little slower. So you can play around with that and adjust that. Just one more thing for organization now. I'm just going to first remove this bubble. And I'm going to put this back like so. Name that dodging. Put the E. And since this is a movement input, I'm going to put it in a movement location. So I'm going to put that right there like that. Remove that bubble. Drag this blue box down over it since it's a move, so that it's in our movement input category. Okay, so that's going to be everything for this episode. If you found this video helpful and want to see more, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new tutorial uploads. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to leave those in the comments section below, or join my community Discord using the link in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the next episode.